Hi, we're Nation, and this is our list of the top 6 best films of 2014 that we have seen. So number 6 on our list is 22 Jump Street. Now, this film surprised me quite a lot because not many comedies, when you release a sequel, the sequel is as good as the original. Generally, the sequel isn't even on par with the original, and you just kind of feel like they're milking the franchise. But with 22 Jump Street, I didn't think that at all. Well, you kind of felt like they were trying to milk the franchise, but it just worked at the same time. In my opinion, 22 Jump Street was just as funny, if not funnier, than 21 Jump Street. The chemistry between Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum was really, really good. The two of them work together really well. It's really, really clear that the characters get on well and that they're good friends. I think the fact that Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum are good friends in real life helps that. It works really well. You grow to love the characters and you pull you into the storyline and get you kind of engrossed and rooting for them the whole way through. Right at the very end of the film, in the credit scenes, the whole credit is just parodies of all the different sequels that they're going to make, and it goes all the way up to like hundreds of years in the future where they're sent to like space, and it's just all these different really crazy types of franchise where they go undercover in like Christian schools and cookery classes and stuff. It's really, really funny. And the film as well, this film, it doesn't pretend to be a film on its own. It knows it's a sequel, and it kind of plays on that a lot, which is really funny. And there's some scenes at the start of the film where it really, really plays on the fact that it's a sequel and kind of takes the mick a little bit, and it is really funny, and it breaks the fourth wall really, really well. And also the character of Ice Cube, who is a rapper, if you don't know. His character in this is also really funny. He plays it really, really well. He's kind of this quite cold character, but also kind of lovable character at the same time, and he gets on quite well with he works really well with Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum as well. But his character is really, really good, and you go to really like his character as well, despite not being the main protagonist, or protagonists in this case. Also, the action in this film is all really over the top. They didn't try to make the action work really well. They didn't try to make it an action film, which is good, because you sometimes get comedies that do have quite a bit of action in them, and they try to make the action really, really good, and they try to make it an action film when it's just not, and it doesn't really work, and it doesn't suit it really well, and it kind of stands out and you can tell. This film doesn't do that. The action, they know it's not an action film, so they just go over the top and they try and make the action as funny as they can make it, which just makes it even better. It just makes it work. Frankly, the action works, which is really good, and it was really fun to watch and really enjoyable to watch. And those are the reasons why it came 6th on our top 6 list.
Coming in at number 5 on our list is The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, the action-packed conclusion to J.R.R. Tolkien's masterpiece, which follows the dwarves' quest to reclaim their homeland from the dreaded Smaug. In the film, the dwarves have reclaimed their homeland, but they now have to defend it from the different armies looking to lay their claim on the vast wealth within its halls, while the people of Rivertown find themselves under attack from Smaug, who is set upon destroying their homeland and burning it all to the ground. The film, first and foremost, acts as a conclusion to the trilogy, where all the stories we see in the first and second movies all come together, and all the loose ends are tied up nicely in one little neat hobbity present. Peter Jackson uses cinema magic and an excellent cast to bring World of Middle-earth back to life again. We have another review of The Hobbit, and if you want to go watch that, then please click on the annotation that will be somewhere on the screen. But to talk more about it, we see Thorin's character change as the dragon sickness takes over him, as it did with his grandfather, so his entire personality changes from what he was in the beginning of the trilogy. He becomes a lot more self-centered. He has a main obsession with the Arkenstone, but was lost when Smaug took over. Now he has got the mountain back. It's his sole quest to find the Arkenstone. Nothing else takes precedence. Not even his men, which at the start of the film were his main concern. He wanted to keep them safe and he wanted to give them back what they had lost. But now he doesn't care. He will sacrifice anything and everyone to get what he needs. Even Bilbo is not safe from his terrible obsession. He also breaks his oath to people of Rivertown, which is very against his character, because he is a very upstanding character. He very much believes in honor at the very start of the trilogy, as we can see from his refusal to go to the elves for help. We don't see a lot of Bilbo in the story. He is very much a background character who just pops up now and again as he tries to reason with the dwarves and the elven army, while at the same time Azog is marching his legions of orcs towards Erebor in his final attempt to end the line of Durin once and for all. This of course leads to a huge and ferocious battle that decides the fate of Middle-earth.
Number 4. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Dawn of the Apes was one of the best balanced films of this year. It had story, it had thought, it was well paced, characters were well rounded, well acted, and it's just beautiful to look at. Like, the CGI on the apes is completely realistic, you completely buy it. There's nothing that ever looks wrong, doesn't take you out the movie. It's all perfectly realistic, top notch there. And Andy Serkis just brings Caesar, who's one of the best protagonists I've seen in a movie for the past decade, to life. He's engaging, you can relate to him in many senses, and he's an ape, which is just impressive from both Andy Serkis and the team that animate him, the digital team who render him, bring him to life in a sense, which is just incredible. Like, just on that merit alone, this movie is good, and yet it has so much more. Like, it's brave, because it's a summer blockbuster basically, and yet it's brave enough to spend the first 20 minutes with our pretty much mute characters, so that we can get to know them, get to care about them. And it's one of the better parts of the movie is actually just this scene with the apes, where not much is happening except they're just talking to each other in sign language, which is just, it's nice to see the guts to do something like that. And the plot just goes along, it's well paced, it's slow when it needs to be, it builds to climax when it wants to. The ending, the spectacular action scene, which you'll have seen some of from the trailer, like apes riding on a horse, dual wielding machine guns, would make the whole enterprise worth it, even if the rest of the movie wasn't particularly great. And for that reason, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes keeps its very worthy place on our list at number 4.
Number 3 on our list is the Lego Movie. A fun, incredibly quirky animated film about little plastic men that almost everyone has come to know and love. I know I loved to play with Lego when I was young, so this film was like watching my creations come to life. Sorta. The story starts off in this Lego city where everything is awesome, and it follows Emmett, a construction worker played by the awesome Chris Pratt, who is just happy, loving everything, and just goes through life following the same instructions that are given to him. Suddenly, one normal day, he falls upon an item that will save his world from the evil of President Business. This man has an ideal of a perfect world and will make it so, but there is a group of people who fight against him. They are known as the Master Builders, inventive minds that can travel through the Lego dimensions, can build anything that comes to mind. It's surprising to find this film in third, as it does sound very much like just another silly kids film. However, it is a film that all the family can enjoy, as it has very well written comedy for the most part, with a few silly jokes here and there. The characters as well are very well written, and it's easy to fall in love and get along with all of them. Even evil characters are a great laugh. That's also due to the very enjoyable and experienced cast, with the likes of Morgan Freeman as wise old Vesuvius, and Liam Neeson, who does a very funny good cop bad cop routine. They also have many other actors and actresses who play characters beautifully, such as Elizabeth Banks as Wildstyle, and Will Ferrell, who does a great job as President Business. For a movie about small plastic men, it has a surprising amount of heart at the center of its tale. You can really get engaged with the story, and it speaks to everyone with a message that you should go your own way and do what you choose rather than follow the rules or instructions. In my own opinion, it also tells me that you can never be too old to imagine, build what you want, and create new things. And for those reasons, it's third on our list.
Number 2, Whiplash. Whiplash is one of my favourite films of the year, purely because it's really relatable. It's about a guy called Andrew, played by Miles Teller, who is a drummer and wants to be the best in the business. So he gets taken under the wing of an uber professional played by J.K. Simmons called Fletcher. Turns out to be an absolute asshole, which creates an interesting dynamic because it tells the theme of, is your passion worth pursuing if you do not enjoy it at that stage, which I like, because I know I've had passions, I imagine everyone has. So I can get on board with this movie. I can get into Andrew's shoes and live this story with him rather than just watching it. I almost feel you'll feel part of it because you can insert yourself where he is and get into the flow of the story, which is engrossing and fast paced. Like, it goes along like a train, and if you're not on board at that stage, you're left in the dust, which I like personally because I like my movies to not feel long. I like to get into it. I like it to tell its concise story and then leave me with its message, which this movie does to a T. The characters are all acted well. J.K. Simmons really brings the heat. He's just a straight up dick. You do not like him, and yet you manage to kind of get behind him when you learn more about him. And it's thought provoking. Not enough movies are thought provoking. Most of them just end up like Transformers, beating you over the head with action and stupidity. And it's nice to be refreshed with a feature film that's small scale but goes big. Like at the end with the finale, you actually don't know which way it could go. It's not predictable in the slightest, and you are scared for this guy because you know that if it goes wrong, he is completely screwed. But you're behind him as well, so you want him to win, which makes this movie our number 2.
Okay, so the number 1 film on our list, which may not be what you would expect because the film that we've chosen is actually a comedy film, which aren't the kind of films that you would typically see at the top of a list for best films of the year, but the film we've chosen is The Grand Budapest Hotel. The reason we've chosen this is because at its core it's just a very, very funny film, which is all you really want from a comedy. You just want to go see the film and you want it to make you laugh, and this one did that really, really, really well. Wes Anderson pulled this off spectacularly. I have to say, he did a really, really good job. It's personally probably my favourite film of his, and probably one of his best films, if not his best. It's really funny, it's enjoyable to watch, and it's just all round a very, very good film. I would highly advise checking it out. Ralph Fiennes' character in it is brilliant, and Ralph Fiennes, you wouldn't really expect him to be that brilliant at comedy. He's not really done a lot of it in the past, so you wouldn't expect it to be his forte, but he is really, really good. He does a really good job. He's surprisingly good at comedy, which I didn't expect, and I really loved it. He brought his character together very, very well. The character was very engrossing. He pulled you into the story, made you want to get involved. You got to really like the character and really love the character. All in all, Ralph Fiennes does a great job, I think, with his character and bringing the audience into the story and getting them involved and wanting them to see what happens next. The visuals in this film, the cinematography is also very, very good. There are some scenes in the film that are animated and they didn't even try to hide it. It was just so obvious how animated it was, and that worked really well. You would expect that to be kind of rubbish. Generally when a film has really obvious animation, it's usually kind of a bad thing, but it was actually really good for this film, and it really suited the film very well, and it just made it funnier. To be honest, it was just more enjoyable to watch. They didn't even try to hide it, they just kind of... The story for this film as well was really, really unpredictable. Like, you had no idea what was going to happen next. It went from one place to another, or from one place to the complete opposite in no time at all for no apparent reason, and it just kind of worked. It didn't try to have it didn't have a logical plot line, and I really liked that. I thought that was really, really good. So yeah, all in all, the film was just really, really enjoyable to watch, really, really funny, and put together very well. It had a great cast, a great director, and for a seemingly low budget film, it was very good. And it kind of went under a lot of people's radar as well, so if you haven't seen it, definitely advise checking it out. Go and see it, because it is very good. And those are the reasons why it has taken the number 1 place on our top 6 list.